Everyone, good afternoon. There's nothing like having a lean, mean, and a hungry audience to present to. You feel like you're being fed to the lions in front of the Romans. So bear with us. But I think you're going to find this session very, very informative and interesting. Think about it. The defense or the security of any country, national security, there are two parts of it. There's a bit about outside the borders, that's the defense piece. And then more interestingly, there's a piece which is inside the borders, and that's internal security. Across the seas, it's also known as homeland security. Out of this industry for several years as a supplier into the industry, but honestly today, I'm honored to be here on this platform and thank to Venki, Vidya and Isa to give me the opportunity, because I'm sharing space with two very, very distinguished, experienced personnel from this space. There is Mr. Rajan Medekar, who is, of course, as you heard, he headed the NSG. Apart from that, he's had close to 4 decades of experience in the IPS. He's headed security positions both at the state as well as the center. He's also, interestingly, before he came into this line by education, he's a science graduate from BITS Pilani and went on to do his solid state physics from Bombay University. So if you're talking of the fusion of security and electronics and technology, I think here's a man who knows it. I'm also happy to have on stage with us Mr. Pratap Heblikar. Also comes with close to 4 decades of experience in the Ministry of Home Affairs related to internal security. He was a special secretary with GOI and has held leadership positions, especially handling the challenges in the Northeast. He's been decorated by the Government of India for meritorious and distinguished service, and to boot, he's also now devoting a lot of his time into academics. So he teaches and speaks and writes for several institutions and academics. Let's come to the subject, internal security. I sometimes laughingly tell Venki, this is the lesser known brother of defense in India. While defense gets all the glamour, all the spotlights, but I think it's important for us to also look at the other half of national security, which is internal security. It's a complex field. And what we're going to try and do today is to learn from 2 experts in the area. What are their views on it? Like we have come to know the intricacies of the defense business and we are still grappling with it, let's also start talking about what's the lay of the land on internal security? What's the scope? What's the spread? Who are the bodies involved? Where are the opportunities? Many of us are here as businessmen. So where are the opportunities? What's the mental SWOT map that we can make out of this? And I think that's the objective for the next 30, 40 minutes as we try to learn from them. Take a look at how big this field is. And to understand that, you've got to understand that India is a huge territory to protect, whether externally or internally. You know, we know the numbers. 3-odd million square kilometers of area, 7,000 kilometers of coastline. You add another 4,000 to 5,000 kilometers of land boundary with other neighboring countries. The various geopolitical challenges we have with neighbors appears to be across the border, but then it has repercussions and it has ripples that spread inside. Any growing country attracts envy. That envy can often reflect in challenges that come inside. So internal security by the construct of the country, by the situation that the country is in, and more than that, it's also to do with the changing patterns of what's happening here. Let's talk about what's the size of this, if I may call it an industry or this area. The internal security business or the segment in India covers everything from the humble local police station, and it goes all the way up on its technology roadmap into almost military-like teams, which are, let's say, the Border Security Force or the ITBP or the SSB. So it's got a huge map that it covers. You also have teams there which are dealing more with the intelligence part of it. We know them. So there is a spread which creates complexity. Let's talk about size. The state police alone in India has a sanctioned strength today of almost 20 lakh personnel. That's 2 million personnel. Now all of that may not be staffed, and there's an opportunity there. You add to that federal agencies which are in the security business, you add another 9 to 10 lakh, so that brings it to something like 30 lakh personnel. I've not even come to the private part of the industry yet. So you talk about the humble security agencies that are providing security to various institutions in the civil area, and that brings another 60 lakh personnel into the play. So you're looking at a huge part, a huge number of people who are involved in this business. Rough estimates on what's the kind of dollars related to this puts the number somewhere around 12 to 15 billion dollars of money spent on this business or on this segment every year, and this is slated to grow. Couple of reasons. India is a growing economy. The current ratio of security personnel or police to every lakh population of public is probably in the neighborhood of 175, 180. Developed countries run somewhere around 220, 230. So there's like a 25% growth which is going to happen there anyway. Besides that, there are imperatives. So every time there is a 26/11 that happens, or something like the attack on Parliament happens, bells ring, and we start thinking about what do we have to do more in this area. So clearly, there is huge scope, there is spread, there is complexity. It's also complex, and I'm sure our speakers are going to stress upon that, because it's a divided responsibility. There is no equivalent. Of course, there is a Ministry of Home Affairs, but the charge is divided. So the states have a role to play, and the federal government has a role to play. The government, in its wisdom, has already kicked off several initiatives, and I'm sure they will speak about that. We'd love to know where they stand, where are they going. So some of you may have already heard about some of the programs which are focused on internal security, whether it's the police force modernization, whether it's the border fencing or the border outpost initiatives, whether it's the National Maritime Awareness Grid or the friend or foe boat identification with transponders, the Crime and Criminal Tracking Network, the National Information Grid, and not to miss, one of the major initiatives of the current government is the Smart City program. And a key element of that is the safe city. How do you keep your personnel, your individuals, and state property safe? Mega city policing. So there's any number of initiatives that have been launched. They're at varying degrees of progress and success, which normally happens. But what I've tried to do in this 5-10 minutes is to set the groundwork for our two experts to speak on. The format we're going to follow is I'm going to request each one of them to come up and share their views, each coming with 4 decades of experience in the field. And then we're going to touch on we will throw it open for question and answers, and before that we'll also talk about some issues and take their views on that. With that, I welcome you to the session again, and I invite Mr. Merekar